Shoulders hunched, eyes at half mast, cigarette protruding from mouth. He plays his piano as if somebody just died. And the images around him sit, feeding their cancer, drowning their senses, talking about those things that are relevant. But to what? Everybody has a story to tell, yet nobody listens. So they come every night, hoping to get what they need, without having to say that they need it. So the man in the corner tells his newly discovered prey the things she wants to hear. His wife doesn't understand him, and he's only thinking about the children. And she makes it perfectly clear that she's never done this sort of thing before. But he's so lonely and so misunderstood. They leave. Him thinking he got over on her, and her thinking she's got over on him. But the pianist knows. His wife doesn't understand him because he's never there. And she would walk off with anything in pants so long as he had a story to tell. So he plays an F sharp as a tribute to their foolishness. Meanwhile, two men sit at the bar trying to psych each other out because they both like men, but not enough to admit it. So they make arrangements to go over Joe's apartment because he has a fantastic stereo component set. And Sam just loves stereo component sets. And as they leave, the pianist strikes another note. Because a lie is only a lie if you believe it. And some people will believe anything if it's convenient. And in another corner, in the rear, in the dark, a woman sits alone, trying hard to look 10 years younger. Wondering who to tolerate for the night. Surely there is one young man in the crowd looking for a mother image. If not, she'll just have to die again. As the pianist plays her requiem, it's a lousy job. And if it weren't for the holes in his arms, he'd probably quit. My friend is losing his mind for fear of going insane, because no matter how down he is, there is still room below. His is no tragedy, just a life characterized by gross misinterpretations, unbending images of self, and pure, uncut anger that never allows him to hang loose or be without pain for 1 second. He is so aware of himself that the absurdity of it all is killing him. Emitted from the wrong womb at the wrong time, under the wrong sign, every day is just an extension of yesterday, a hassle. And getting out of bed in the morning is like slow suicide, because he knows just what's going down. Agonizingly, I watch him bleed. Fun comes hard and good times not at all. And there are so many things I could tell him, but he's my friend, and I can see no good in expanding his consciousness to one more level, or to widening his senses by introducing him to any more thoughts that cannot be dealt with by sane persons. Sometimes I think he will have to kill someone just to maintain his mental balance. And as repulsive as it sounds, I would be able to justify his actions logically, validly, and with very little imagination. His life is beyond reason. The very nature of his being is so insane that I almost give up, searching for ways and means to comfort him, to keep him around until tomorrow. And if I thought that there was true peace in the grave, I would kill him, because that's what friends are for. But fortunately for those who are miserable, and unfortunately for him, I do not believe that death will even things out. He is every friend that I have. He is the very epitome of my own people. He is the mirror reflection of me, and I love myself. All of us, to such an extent that I would gladly lay myself down if only to see one me set free. From castration, from alienation, from regimentation, from dehumanization, from Americanization, from the need to be alive. And it's so hard to smile and laugh and joke with him without letting on that I know. He's in my blood, he's in my guts and my soul, and in the very core of all my futile attempts to stay above low and survive the pressure of too much truth. My friend, we are one. So please hold on, because without you, all that I am and can ever be will amount to nothing. There are no sounds, no gestures, and no sights that can make goodbye seem like anything else but what it is. Or so I told myself as I eased out of the door, like a thief in the night. And walking with my last bit of hope tucked safely away in my inside pocket, I turned around at least a dozen times, hoping to find you running after me. And then I'd walk a little faster, because there was always the impossible possibility that you would be waiting at the next corner. But you never could catch up with me, even when I thought I was standing still. And recalling the time I was to meet you to talk about the way things were not going, you left because I was 10 minutes late. So I finally convinced myself that you were not the waiting kind. And standing outside of the terminal, waiting for a chartered bus that was to take me wherever it is that people go when they're tired, I looked over my shoulder one more time. Wishing like hell that you'd be there, and hoping to God that you wouldn't. Friday hits him in the head, and sitting up in bed, he remembers. She'll be coming tonight. Stumbling into the bathroom, he tries to think of a way to avoid looking into the mirror, but it is late. So he shaves as quickly as possible. And in his haste, he cuts himself. Not enough to bleed to death, but just enough to wish. And then it starts. She doesn't care. His friends no longer want to be associated with him. It's embarrassing. And she doesn't care. He's lost 7 pounds in the last 2 weeks. And last night's sleep was prompted by 2/5 of wine, and she doesn't care. His needs can't get fruition outside, so they've started eating on the inside. And she doesn't care. And next chance he gets, he's going to buy a new mirror because this one talks too much. So he goes to work and comes home again, without ever having left the house. The phone rings. He answers, hangs up, and takes 2 Alka-Seltzers because she's on her way. The Alka-Seltzers are really not that effective, but they help him to digest the disgust he feels for himself. for having been unable to tell her not to bother. Maybe tonight will be different. But she dispenses with that thought because she can't understand why they have to stay in his crummy apartment, listening to his crummy music, when they could be out having fun. Giving up, she sits in her usual place, smooths out her dress, and touches up her hair, which the stupid barber trimmed too close. He is silent. And when she is through running down her list of grievances for the day, she tells him to do something about his face. It's depressing. And just when he's about to tell her what he really thinks about what she thinks, she goes into the bedroom. And his courage falls from his guts and into his loin. Being prone, he has the edge. So he pushes himself into her body, trying with all the strength he can muster to touch her heart and shatter it. But it is useless, because she thinks she's making love. And anyway, she doesn't care. When the attack is over, immediately she gets up and puts on her clothes and starts for home. Safe at last, he lets go. His pain fills the room until it is so thick he cannot move without hurting. Having been in the background, waiting for a cue, loneliness comes forth. The last time I saw him, he was talking about some business venture that we both knew would never come about. And I smiled to let him know that I was pleased with his ability to dream. And fed up with his oppression, I split. Things have changed while remaining the same, and I have learned to write down my sorrows instead of verbalizing to people who simply cannot understand why. I want to be free. They live contented with the weight of their own yokes, secure. They know that things cannot get worse. And I saw him yesterday. He looked the same. And I did not inquire about his business because he has been hurt enough. And I don't think I could bear to see him make excuses for that heavy object on his shoulders. I understand. But I wish that he'd dream of me instead. At least I am within his grasp. Suddenly, I saw me, just shuffling along, big in the view. I was walking through the fields, laughing at myself, pleased with the way nature and I blended. And it seemed as if I had been walking forever, exchanging pleasantries with the wind, and dazzled by flowers that I had seen before, somewhere. We talked, nature and I, and she told me about her sad love affair with man. And I said I understood, which seemed to please her, so she sang to me. And then I told her stories about some really funny things that happened to me. Like the time I actually chased love down an alleyway and found a friend. Everything was so fine, so blue, so yellow, so green, so me, that I just couldn't help smiling inside, because I finally knew what it was all about. So I just sauntered along, loving life, and even though I knew I was going to die, it really didn't matter after all. Unhappy with himself, he beats her. And then, shocking his way into her body, he tries to fill her insides with his pain. They are lovers. Myopic, she runs into someone else's arms and finds a bit of relief and another sort of reason with which to slice his ego. They are lovers. Weary with having to deal with the madness around them, they embrace each other as a last resort and find that which is human. They are lovers. In the next episode, he does not tell her the things she wants to hear. So viciously she tells him of bigger and better men, using his weakness as her weapon. She kills him for the 1,000th time. So he beats her. Lashing her softness savagely, they are lovers. Wedged in between the madness and needs that will never ever be satisfied. They are lovers. The first time I saw loneliness, it looked like the drawn-out face of a black-skinned woman, sitting alone in a 2x4 room, saying things that no one could hear, and worrying about her man who should have come home 10 years ago. The next time I saw loneliness, it looked like distilled water in the eyes of a man who was forced to eat alone because he couldn't play their games. And the last time I saw loneliness, it was just a reflection, bouncing off the pupils of a man who was looking at me and trying to make me understand why we could not. Sleep well, babe. Because after tomorrow, you won't have to worry anymore about what it is that makes her turn away, or why, when you touch her, she trembles. It'll take a while, that's true. But just think, you'll never have to wake up again in the middle of the night to find her sitting by the window, staring. And there will be no more questions that you can't answer. No more apologies for things you didn't do. No more outbursts of tears that you can't kiss away. You'll be so much better off. You won't have to explain her moodiness to your friends or her sudden coolness to yourself. And you'll never again have to look at her etchings and wonder, who is she thinking of? No more lies, no more strangeness, no more pain, no more her. Because this morning he called to tell her, to tell you, it's over. Wet mouths meet in a sensuous conspiracy to overthrow the senses and render the eyes colorblind. Blue eyes weep that brown eyes should be so beautiful. White skin tingles that black skin should have such a tender effect. It's been a long time coming, and even though the rain threatens to spoil the day, the celebration continues. Facing reality on your terms, I ache ridiculously. Seeing the meanness in you, one of us will have to go. And I volunteer you. Just a sensuous conglomeration of moist bodies, wrapped in multicolored skins, woven tightly together by seething, earthy musical sounds. And the speeding drip of wine on grass made the sun shine and the day glow. They came in hungry hordes, dying for lack of spiritual nourishment, and were absorbed, enchanted by the naked beauty of themselves. And leaving them was like leaving home to seek a fortune that could only be found from within. The last time I saw Jesus, he was being held by the government as a political prisoner. I asked him if he wanted me to hustle up his bail, but he said no. He just didn't give a damn anymore. So I slipped him a couple of joints and told him to hang loose. Reacting to your reaction towards me. Sometimes I do get wet, and it wouldn't be so bad if I didn't know you so well, but I've been there before. And the things you're saying now are about as genuine as the things you said before. You deal in cut glass, but I deal in diamonds. And the only reason my legs are crossed so tightly is because I know the hand is quicker than the eye. Tall and lean and looking somewhat like a black museum piece perched on the bar stool, like a Stokely or maybe an Eldridge. He was so cool, and I could tell that he could tell just how cool I thought he looked at me. So I started easing up to him like a Siamese cat, purring my intentions all over his too beautiful to be shoulders, until he spoke. And I grabbed every word, tucking them safely inside of my head. And everything he said was like a quote from a black nationalist manual. But I hung in there, feeling him out and tapping his head, which was, by definition, very much together. And then, stepping back to marvel at what I had chanced upon, I breathed a heavy sigh, because finally, he was exactly where I wanted to be. And following an urge which plagued me from the start, I reached out to touch his face. So smooth, so soft, so like only a man's face can be. But when I touched it, the skin disintegrated right in my hands. And there was a buzzing sound, like a tape recorder rewinding to start a worn-out tape on a brand-new chick. So I stepped aside, letting another take my place, with the same questioning eyes, with the same welcoming smile. Well, so much for love at first sight. saw you there, your spine curved, and your face in your hands looked like need. So I knelt beside you and whispered until you unfurled to become a towering bronze statue with a beating crown, smiling as if you had just found the answer to a universal question. Reaching, I lost my hands in yours, much like the way you lost your hardness in my soft. Were we not beautifully connected? I thought so. And as the wind blew in from the east, you faded into the west. And I watched you until you had become a part of the sun. So feeling a sudden chill, I placed my hands over my face and leaned until my spine curved. Because now it was my turn to wait.